Hi! Did you know that the Amazon rainforest is being intentionally set on fire by cattle farmers? Because it is. The fires has been so intense that the city of Sao Paulo, which lies about 2,700 kilometers away from the Amazon, was covered in smoke and ashes in the middle of the day on Monday the 19th of August, making it dark for about an hour. Now you might ask yourself, why is it an issue that the Amazon is on fire? You know, except for the fact that it's on fire. Well, for starters, the Amazon is the largest rainforest on the planet, containing 1.4 billion acres of forest, which is half of the planet's remaining tropical forests. And that's a lot of forest. And what a rainforest does is that it produces rain. Now don't quote me on that because I'm simplifying things. But it kinda does. Compared to regular trees, they take up and exhale way more water than a regular forest. And it pumps it out in the atmosphere at incredible speeds. That's why there's so much rain in a rainforest, because it helps make it. And all this rain that the rainforest helps pump back into the air again is also a huge part of what makes this part of the world cooler than this part of the world, even though this part is closer to the equator. The water that the forest pumps into the air also travels by winds and falls over a huge part of other places in North and South America, giving rain there as well. And if the rainforest is gone, I mean, there won't be much rain left. Another thing that's important to note about the rainforest is that it stores about 90 billion metric tons of carbon, which helps stabilize the local and global climates. And deforestation might just release significant amounts of this carbon out into our atmosphere, which is, to put it simply, bad. Now, deforestation is not a new problem. Intentional fires and illegal logging has been going on for decades, and since the 1970s, 20% of the rainforest cover has been removed. People whose literal job it is to study how the rainforest, the ecosystem, and how the climate functions warn that if the Amazon loses another fifth of its forest, a feedback loop known as dieback will start happening. This is where the forest begins to dry out and burn in a cascading system collapse beyond the reach of any subsequent human intervention or regret. You see, when you cut more forest, you get less trees helping add water back up into the air, in return making there be less rain, which then makes droughts, which again can make the entire system collapse because the forest doesn't manage to return to normal by itself. And by the current rate of how fast the clearing is happening, we could be reaching this tipping point by 2030, which is pretty close, and it might even be closer. In a study led by Adrian Esquivel-Molbert, found that more drought-tolerant plant species have been appearing in the Amazon, while species that predominantly emerge in wet areas are declining. This study was co-authored by more than 100 other scientists, and yet another study found that the rate of tree deaths is increasing as well. Quote, "It's not clear whether all this is the beginning of a major shift or if it's something else, but it's still important because the species are beginning to change, and that can change how the forest behaves." There's a whole lot more that can be said about the situation in the Amazon, like the fact that people also live and rely on this forest for their livelihood, or the tons of species that can die out because of it. And to me, it's all pretty depressing to hear about. It's a bad situation, and I don't like it. It's bad. But right now, I'd like to change the focus over to Costa Rica. You see this little country right here? What a nice little country, isn't it? In 1970, 73% of their land was covered by rainforest, but rampant logging and deforestation reduced that rainforest cover to only 26% in 1983. The destruction devastated biodiversity in the forest and it threatened many species. But the government stepped in, restricted logging permits, and started paying landowners who conserved their land. And they also started investing in and creating jobs that depend on a healthy rainforest. With time, the deforestation rate dropped to a near zero. Trees started growing back again, and today forests cover almost half the country. Lately, they have also been relying on 98% renewable energy for their power consumption, and they're working towards becoming a carbon neutral country. Now, Costa Rica is by no means a perfect country. There's a lot of issues there as well, but they have shown that it is possible to reverse a trend. And I guess that's the point of why I'm making this video. Because it is always possible to make a change. And even though things seem terrible, there are always people out there fighting and doing everything they can to do the right thing. And I think it's important to remember that. The two main organizations I found that work specifically for the Amazon was the Rainforest Trust and the World Wildlife Fund. The Rainforest Trust is an organization that purchases and protects the most threatened tropical forests, saving endangered wildlife through partnerships and community engagement. And the World Wildlife Fund currently have a campaign to support key local indigenous communities in need of medical support, and it's also gonna provide firefighter training and security to these people, in addition to working with local governments where possible on procedures for fighting fires and deforestation. And they do wildlife monitoring, rescue and recovery projects as well. I've linked both of them down below, so if you have a couple of bucks, feel free to send them their way. I know I will. For more reading about the problem, I would highly recommend checking out the description, because there's a lot of stuff I haven't been able to squish into this video, like why has there been an increase in forest fires lately? There's a huge huge reason for why, especially in Brazil. So please check out more of the sources if you have the time. That was everything for now though, so thank you so very much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day, you beautiful creatures. Bye bye!
Hey friends! Did you know that climate change is definitely real and definitely affected by human action? I had to ask because, well, some people deny that that's happening. And this video's about them. Now, I'm not here to pretend that there's a real debate in science about whether CO2 affects global temperatures or whether humans have a hand in it. The science is settled and the deniers are wrong.